I'm gonna bring you right in. Okay. All right. So, Jake, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. All right. So in three, two, one. Hey, this is Wilson. No Jason Wolf this week, as always. No Galvez either. But I'm joined by my two prestigious co-hosts, as always, Jason Big Mitch Mitchell, Shane Christopher Murray. We also have tonight, we have two special guests. One of them is Mitch's queen, Sheila Ali. She's joining us tonight. But I mean, the crown jewel of this episode, no disrespect, Sheila, is a man who's I think has played a very important part in something that as Lakers fans we've been, we've discussed every episode so far of the Hulu docuseries. After since Shane Bush this guest, it's our custom to let whoever booked the guest introduce him. Shane, how about you tell us a little bit about our guest, our special guest tonight?
All right. Well, without further ado, we have the editor of the new Lakers doc, Lakers Legacy, Jake Pushinsky.
How's it going, Jake?
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So Jake, as Shane said, Jake is the editor of the Lakers Legacy documentary that is, I think that was episode 8, the most recent episode. And he's done a lot of other stuff also. This is a docuseries, Legacy docuseries, but he also was the editor for Muhammad Ali, What's My Name, which is an HBO documentary. Silicon Cowboys, Linda Ronstadt's The Sound of My Voice, and the Oscar goes to. That was another thing that he was the editor of. As far as narrative pieces, the Wu-Tang and American Saga on Hulu, he's the editor for that. Boulevard, which starred the late great Robin Williams, he was the editor for that. The movie Fighting, which starred Channing Tatum and Terrence Howard, he was the editor for that. Also, the movie Man Down, which starred Shia LaBeouf. So this is a major and a noteworthy Hollywood professional. And I have a lot of questions for him as somebody who has, tried my hand over the years at, filmmaking and editing and things like that. I have a lot of questions for these guys. So we'll start off with Jake's background. Jake, I know you were born in San Francisco in 1978. Can you just tell me a few things about your upbringing and how that led you to pursuing the career that that has made you a noteworthy person?
Yeah, so like you said, I grew up in San Francisco. My father was a photographer and did some screenwriting. My mother made her own documentaries. I grew up actually as a jazz pianist and went to school for music and moved to LA for the first time in '97 and was doing music for television commercials. And the guy I was working with, Dido Montiel, was writing a screenplay based on his life. And, we would talk about the script. I would send the script to my father. We would, talk about someday we'll make this movie. And I didn't even know what I was going to do on it. But we went out in LA and shot a couple of days around LA and made like a kind of teaser short film sort of thing. And at the place where we were working, we had a super basic version of Adobe Premiere, and this is '99. And it was we used it just to digitize commercials for the composers to write the music to. And we went and shot some stuff, and I used that program and kind of taught myself how to edit and cut together a little short film. The guy who owned the company we worked at was good friends with Robert Downey Jr. And Downey would come into the office all the time. And so we gave him the short film and we gave him the script. He loved that. he took it, he was good friends with Sting and Sting's wife, Trudy Styler. He took it to them. They loved him. A couple of years later, we did another short. And my friend who wrote it, he had never written or directed anything before, and I had never cut anything. But they wanted us to do another short. We shot another short with Downey in it. And long story short, in 2005, they got the financing and they were making the movie, and my friend brought me out to cut it. And that movie was A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, and that ended up at Sundance in 2006, and I've been editing since. So I kind of, it wasn't where I thought I was going to be going. And I kind of, I just kind of fell into it, and things have led to other jobs. And I met my agent, who I've been with since 2006, at Sundance that year, Craig Mizrahi, and we've been together ever since. And, and I've been fortunate to just keep getting jobs and landing myself in the right place.
So I got a bunch of questions, guys. So if you guys have any questions, please jump right in. I don't want to get too far ahead, but I'm so fascinated by the technical aspect of it. Okay, I guess I'll start with this. As an editor, I heard another interview where you said that I know music plays a very important part in your editing process. But what would you say is like, do you have a certain style that you would say, like a base style? Another question I have is how much of the editing process, editor, how much of it is the director giving you instructions and you try to execute his vision, and how much of it is the director going, okay, well, I'm just going to let him do his thing, basically?
So, first with the music and the style, like I said, growing up as a jazz pianist, for me, music is incredibly important in film in general, but just for rhythm and pacing and editing, I think there's an inherent rhythm to editing. And I think because of my music background, it just had, I tend to cut with a musical rhythm. Most importantly to me from the editing is story and character. If you don't, and that's from the narrative side to the documentary side. I think one of the things that Antoine Fuqua, the director on Legacy, his big thing was from day one, he compared this to The Godfather, and looked at the Bus family as the Corleones, and that's what he wanted. And to me, it was, so it's important for us to know these characters and feel these characters. We wanted to go beyond just Laker fans. We knew Laker fans were going to be all in kind of no matter what. And then we knew that basketball fans would tune in kind of no matter what. How can we get the non-basketball fans? And, and I think the human story of the Bus family, even if they are billionaires, it's a family run business. And I think a lot of people can, kind of can understand that, if they, and Jeannie has said it so many times, for her, it was just the family business. If it had been real estate, she'd still be with the Bus family business. So it's all about a connection to these people, because if you don't care about the people, you're not going to care about the story. And then, as far as the director, it changes from project to project. I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of directors that trust me and give me my freedom to do what I do. And then we, go back and forth. Antoine is particularly trusting in me. He gives me a lot of freedom and allows me to really do my thing. And a lot of his notes are much more big picture. and less about the little things. You know, for him, it's does the story work? You know, and it's, you know, he's so, his notes, when I sit down and talk to him about things, it's so, he's so smart about story and making sure that we're not hitting the same beat twice. We're not, you know, we're not getting repetitive. We're not slowing down. We're keeping the momentum, you know, and he's all about that momentum. I mean, you watch his scripted movies, it's like you're always moving. So, you know, it kind of depends on the director, but I've been lucky, and a lot of people have given me my freedom to kind of do what I do.
Yeah, when I saw the very first seconds of the first episode, and I said this in the podcast, the first thing I said was, I'm so happy that they got a Hollywood director to direct this thing. And basically, but really what I was talking about was the editing. That it was edited to me like you know, I wasn't expecting, but it was edited like, I watch a lot of documentaries, but the style and the tone of this Lakers Hulu documentary to me is very, I love the dramatic feel. It's cinematic. It's the word I would say. And of course, no matter how much of that is Antoine Fuqua, his vision, no matter what Mr. Pushinsky here, he had to execute it. And of course, there's always, you know, I mean, it has to come from the editor and his own creative, you know, his creative, you know, instincts basically. I want to mention something also. You said that Fuqua looked at the docuseries like The Godfather, and you mentioned that Jeannie Buss said that if Dr. Buss had stayed in real estate, then she would have been involved in real estate. She would have been involved in the family business no matter what. And I get that comparison you're making, because I've always felt like The Godfather, and everybody looks at it as a mob movie, and it is, but more than that, it's really about the family and the you know, and Michael and, you know, his relationship with his family, trying to protect his family. And basically the mob part is really just like the backdrop, and it was, you know, we all like mob movies, but no matter what the family business would have been, the story would have almost been just, you know, the same or very similar, you know, because what it was really about was the family.
Yeah, it's the family interaction and family and business, and when business becomes more important than family, and all of those, you know, struggles. And as we know, the Buss family has dealt with all of those on a lot of levels.
Right. You guys want to jump in? Because if not, I'll keep going.
I had a question. John Ireland was saying that this doc was done for a while, but it was just trying to find the right network, the right vehicle to hold it. Were you always a part of the process, or did the production crew change hands a lot, or how was that process?
So Kevin Mann is the lead producer, and he's been, I think what he said, he met Jeannie for the first time in 2015. So they started talking about, and Kevin, you know, in the sports world, he produced the LeBron James doc, More Than a Game, you know, however many years ago that was, 15 years ago. So he met Jeannie and started talking about this project in 2015. I got started, Antoine, myself, and the writer, Stephen Leckart, we all came on in March of 2020. So my first day was actually the day that LA went into lockdown. And so, but they had filmed some interviews before we started. We didn't use any of those in the doc, but we kind of started this version of it in 2020, and Hulu got involved. I don't know if it was late 2020, early 2021. But yeah, we, you know, our version of it, we did over 100 interviews. And even to this day, we're still, you know, there's the little finishing touches on episode 10. We're just about done. But we still got a couple of little minor things. Just, you know, you get down to the end of it, and it's, can we license this photo? Can we use that photo? It's, you know, the story is done. But it's just little tweaks here and there that should be done in the next couple of days, and that'll be it. But so yeah, it's been 2.5 years for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So definitely not a response to winning time as a lot of people think it is.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. That's definitely what a lot of people thought. It's definitely what it seemed like on the outside was, oh, it didn't win in time. No, but it was the timeline. It's not. It's it's different than what people think.
No, we could not have put it together that fast.
Right. I want to know. You worked on boy. This is some the Lakers Hulu. Ali, what's my name? What was it like working on that one? I mean, Muhammad Ali wasn't saying that was an HBO documentary. I'm just curious because Muhammad Ali was such a colorful figure, and it makes me wonder if in that editing process, how much of like dealing with this like singular person, how much that like did that change your your thinking any when you were editing it? You know, how much did working on a documentary featuring Muhammad Ali, how did that impact your creative process on that documentary?
So that was the first time I worked with Antoine, and Antoine's a big boxing fan. And my father, he was a photographer and worked for Boxing Magazine for years when I was a kid, and he would take me to go watch fights, and so I was very familiar with the fight world. But Ali obviously was a little before me. I mean, he fought a little bit when I was really young, but I didn't know Ali much more than, he's the greatest. I'd watched a couple of fights, but I didn't know him as a person. I didn't know the full story. And, the way I looked at it was like it was like a master's class in Ali. It was about a year and a half. And one of the things that Antoine always said was like, one, this is about greatness and what made Ali great, not just as a fighter, but as a person. And why do we still look at him the way we do? And then two was, he is such a bigger than life character that, he's like a movie star. And anytime our story started to go away from him, he was like, wow, we got to get back to the movie star. Where's my movie star? Why are we talking about anything else? Like, give me my movie star. And he, at one point he talked about it like Denzel, like, when you have a Denzel movie, there's only so long that you can go into seeing somebody else. Like, where's Denzel? Why isn't he on screen right now? And that was the same with Ali. But it was, what was fascinating to me about him was, it was a 2-part documentary, both of them a little under an hour and a half, that he could hold the screen for essentially 3 hours. And just him, and he's so big, and he was so smart, and from such a young age. I mean, you look at when he changed his name, and that was one of why it's called What's My Name. Like, he did that at such a young age, and to understand what he was doing and to put it on this big stage, and what it did to his career, and I mean the effect it had on so much. It was just. It was a great, like I said, master's class in Ali, but also just to watch what this man did over his life. And, it reminds you, like, what am I doing? Like everything he did had a meaning, had a reason, felt important to him. And so I thought, it was just, I felt, I was just lucky to work on it when it really comes down to it. He's the greatest for a reason.
Right. So you mentioned that it was that because Ali was a little before your time, it was like a master class in education in Muhammad Ali and his life, in his career. So I want to know, like, are you a basketball fan? Are you a Lakers fan? I know you're from, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big basketball fan. I will say I'm a lifelong Warriors fan.
Okay.
But I was not a Laker hater. I have plenty of friends who are Laker haters. But no, I was but yeah, I grew up, in the Run TMC days of the Warriors. Went through a lot of terrible, terrible years with them. We've had a nice little run recently. But working on this Lakers doc definitely gave me a whole new appreciation for the franchise for one, the Bus family for two, and then rest in peace, Kobe. When Kobe was playing, I definitely did not appreciate him on any level, on the level that I do now. I mean, being able to dig in and watch those games again, watch all the interviews with him at the time, it's beyond, for me, I grew up a big Jordan fan and watching Jordan. And when Kobe came around, it was always just like, come on, be yourself. Stop imitating Jordan. Stop him. I had a little bit of that, like, you'll never be Jordan. But, going back now and kind of reliving all of that, it's, he was his own, he definitely came in and tried to be Jordan for sure. But then he, I don't know, better than, who knows, whatever, that's an endless debate, but he definitely, he became his own for sure. But yeah, now, my Laker fan now, that might be pushing it, but, I'm definitely pulling for the Warriors over that, but, they're a second place now for me.
Okay.
There we go. We'll take it. We'll take it.
You guys will have it to jump in. If not, I'll keep going.
I gotta. It's not so much a question. I just have a comment. It just seems like we've really been, just going back to the legacy documentary. It feels like we're really setting up for the tension between Jeannie and Jimmy. So I'm really excited for that because just thinking back, obviously we've been following the Lakers for so long, and I remember that time period. It was tense, felt like in the city just during that time. So I'm really excited to see how you guys portray that, because all through the episodes you can see it just from even just their answers. So I'm really excited for that. See how
it was we did
what they talk about. Yeah,
we did 8 interviews with Jeannie, 9 interviews with Jeannie, and 4 or 5 interviews with Jim, and Johnny, and then 1 with Janie. It's fascinating. It's fascinating what they had to deal with, where just looking, and I think it's obviously I've watched every one of these episodes so many times, but I've been watching them as they come out again, and to watch it kind of unfold in the time of the show, and seeing when it all started and where they all, when they were doing this and when they were, like the back and forth, and who's going to do what, and, and obviously like it all happened. So there's no real spoilers, but yeah, it's, they talked about it, episode 9, we get into it, it's,
Ooh.
Yeah. I think,
Ooh.
I think obviously it was all in the public, but and Jim was, he got interviewed a few times on ESPN and stuff, like it wasn't like he was not out there. Jeannie was out there more. But they go into it, and all of them do. Johnny and Jesse and Joey, the younger brothers, and Janie, like everybody talks about it. So yeah, it goes there in episode 9.
Sam, were you about to say something?
No.
No, I mean Shane.
Yeah. A question and a comment. My idol all time was Nick Van Exel, so I love the whole feature you guys had on him in the episode, and I was wondering, I like the feature, but I was wondering, was the trade ever talked about being added to it, or did they want to talk about it? 'Cause even though it was kind of small, but in terms of like freeing up Kobe to be Kobe, trading Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones kind of like help him take off, and then it changed the landscape. Then add Glenn Rice. I was wondering, would that part ever talked about, or you just didn't want to get into it because it's kind of an urban legend of how he got how Nick Van Exel got traded. I just wanted to know if was it ever talked about.
No, we didn't really get into it. You know, it was such a tough thing what we talked about, like going into the project with trades and injuries, right? It's like you know, and people coming to the, you know, getting traded to the team, get drafted, whatever, all of the ins and outs of all these players. And it, you know, we obviously, we don't have the landscape, the time to tell every one of them. And so we made the decision to like really get into the ones that made a difference, that made a very clear difference, you know, like Norm Nixon and Byron Scott coming in, like Norm leaving and Byron coming in on that one trade was such a big deal. You know, for the team, Byron being the player that he became, Norm being the player that he was before he left, you know, so, but the players, as they just kind of came and went, if it didn't mean bringing in a big player, it was harder to really talk about them leaving. But yeah, obviously, you know, Nick and Eddie, just being able to get them, I think was great. You know, it was a
Eddie don't do interviews like that.
No, and Nick, you know, I mean, Nick kind of jokes about it with Kevin, the producer. You know, they were going back and forth for like, I mean, months and months and months, and Nick would kind of ignore him and not respond. And then they finally agreed to it, and Kevin showed up, and he was like, "Hey, you know, sorry I kept bothering you." He was like, "I was always going to do it. I was just fucking with you." You know, so like,
Nick the quick.
but you know, what I will say is that when it came down to it, it was like, you know, they almost every one of them, if not every one of them, they did it for Jeannie. Like they, you know, it was like, "All right, Jeannie," you know, Jeannie called, Jeannie emailed, Linda called, like they all, I mean, they all love the Bus family. Like all of them, just like, doesn't matter if they were there for a year or 20 years, you know, it was just like they love that family and that organization. I mean, John Sally talks about it like that was the best time of my life. And I, you know, I mean, he's got a ring, you know, I mean, he's played with the best of them, and he was only there.
Bad boy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and but they all look at their time in the purple and gold as like the best time of their life.
Right. I hate to keep bouncing around from film to film, but I wanted to make sure I don't forget. So you also the editor for another series with Hulu that's ongoing, the Wu-Tang series, an American Saga. You mentioned that both the Ali and the Lakers pieces were, you know, things where you learned some things that maybe that you didn't know before, realized some things you didn't realize before. I want to know, did you grow up a hip hop fan?
Oh yeah.
You're from the Bay Area, you're from San Francisco. What was that experience like? Or what has that experience been like? It's ongoing. But how much of a hip hop fan are you, and how much have you learned about Wu-Tang since you've been working on that series?
No, I grew up a big hip hop head. I like actually, so the showrunner, executive producer, Alex C. It was Alex C. and RZA who were the showrunners and executive producers, creators of the show. Alex C. and I went to high school together, and we'd been talking about trying to work together for years. And then when that came up, it was kind of a no-brainer. But yeah, I grew up, you know, I mostly, it was, you know, in my Walkman was either hip hop or jazz, you know, depending if I was doing my work, I was listening to jazz, and if not, I was all hip hop. And when I first moved to LA, actually, I was playing at a club. Some friends of mine and I were playing at an open mic night at a club in Hollywood, and we were like the house band, and a rapper named Medusa came through. I don't know if you guys know her. She's an LA underground. She was from the Project Blowed, her and Freestyle Fellowship and underground LA cats from Leimert Park. And she came through and I ended up playing with her for a couple of years around LA, and we did shows with KRS-One and long list of players, long list of people, Black Eyed Peas before they really hit, and Ozone Motley and all these LA groups. So yeah, that was, I knew I was pretty dialed in.
Mitch? Mitch, there's some static coming from your end, bro? Sorry about that, Jake. Yeah,
all good. But yeah, I was pretty dialed in with the whole Wu-Tang world. I mean, I didn't know the kind of how they came together and the backstory when they were kids, but as far as the music went, I was very, very familiar.
Okay. You worked on this film with starring Robin Williams called Boulevard. I know you worked, Robert Downey Jr., Channing Tatum, Terrence Howard, Shia LaBeouf, but I mean, Robin Williams was a living legend while he was alive, and his death even more so. What was it like working, just having like the privilege and the honor to be the editor of a film that starred Robin Williams, and what was that editing process like creatively? Editing a talent like Robin Williams. So
that was the director that was the same director as the first film I did, and we've done 7 films together. But doing that was, I mean, all those names that you've listed off, like, I feel lucky and privileged to have been able to cut movies with them. But yeah, Robin Williams is like next level, right? I mean, just decades and decades of unbelievable work. And that ended up being it was actually the last film that he shot before he passed away. But yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, everything he did, from the editing side of things, he could kind of do no wrong. Like it was I think one of the toughest things was, at times he would almost, it's a very dramatic movie, but he can't help but bring a smile to the screen. And, it was just at times trying to like make sure that his smile didn't take it over and take away from what was supposed to be dramatic at times. But yeah, I mean, it was great to be able to work on that.
You mentioned something. You mentioned how you're still, episode 10. You're still kind of working out the kinks as far as, like the licensing and being able to clear all the different images and footage and stuff like that. As somebody who's kind of, like I said, I kind of tried my hand at filmmaking and stuff like that. Technically, well, not so much technically, but just like the kind of behind the scenes aspect of that, as far as getting footage cleared. I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's so much archival footage and this stuff that you can't even. It's not even on YouTube. I like I said, my favorite part was at the end of episode. Was it? I guess it was episode 6 when Dr. Buss is talking to Jim Hill. Everybody in LA knows Jim Hill, the great former football player turned broadcaster. And they're talking, and it's after they won the first championship with the 3-peat. And I was like, man, that's not even on YouTube. So like, well, what is that like though for people like me who try to make movies and stuff like that? What is that like? When you're working on major, films that are for commercial purposes. How hard is it? How difficult is it sometimes to get, especially when you're working on documentaries, to get that type of archival images and footage to get it clear so it can be in the film.
It's tough. There's there's so many layers to it, you know, and from the editorial side, I'm just like, you know, give me everything. And then there was a big archival team. You know, we had a few archival producers that were constantly digging and reaching out to all the different vendors. You know, they reach out to all the networks and just get anything and everything that they have. Then there's going deep dives on YouTube, and then, you know, and then there's also just reaching out to individuals who may just have footage. You know, in episode 5, the audio of Jerry West talking about Kobe at the tryout. You know, that was a tape that Bill Burtka, you know, longtime assistant coach, he has a garage full of tapes, and they're all very organized, and he knew that he had a tape that he recorded an interview with Jerry West before and after that workout. So we reach out to all of these people, and then the archival producers, they handle all of the actual licensing. And I don't really understand, you know, like, I mean, I understand it, but I don't get into it so much. So, but yeah, it's a tough job. It's a long job. And, you know, there's a lot of contract work, and, you know, it's a lot of negotiating and a lot of back and forth, and everybody from, you know, the NBA to ESPN to, you know, some individual who just has a VHS tape with some footage, you know, all of those deals are different, and, you know, they're all negotiated throughout the process.
Okay. Mitch, I know there's some crackling right now. I don't know if you could do anything about it. Let me see. Anybody else got any questions? I got a couple more. Okay. You worked on the editor of the And the Oscar Goes To. I read that plays, I think, every year before the Oscars. I mean, that's almost, I mean, that's timeless right there. I mean, my goodness, to be the editor of something that plays every year before the Oscars. What was it like? I don't know if that's something that people can watch publicly, but can you explain a little bit like what that was like, and just a little bit about what it is, like how long is it, and things like that?
Yeah, so that was, you know, the directors of that are two guys named Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman, who are Academy Award winning documentary filmmakers. I've worked with them a few times. I did a movie called Howl with them quite a few years back, and then we did that, and the Oscar Goes To, and then we did the Linda Ronstadt doc together. And they are phenomenal filmmakers. And they called me, and they had been approached, I believe it was by the Academy, to make a documentary about the history of the Academy Awards. And it's a 90-minute, around 90 minutes, feature length documentary about the history of the Academy Awards. And, you know, it was another one. Obviously, working in the business, I know, you know, a bit about the film industry and the history of film, but getting to work on that and really dig into the history of all of it was fascinating. And, you know, and the access we got to all of the footage from the Academy, and, you know, and the actors that showed up for interviews, it was, you know, it was incredible. It was a fast job. There was 3 editors on it. And we didn't have much time, so we had to get through it quickly. But yeah, it was a blast to work on that. And yeah, and I think it still plays every year. I know they were doing it for a few years, and I think it still goes every year before the awards.
Right. Okay. So my last question is just, do you have any advice for any people? Because I've always said that, you know, I feel like maybe you could argue. I mean, I always say that, you know, it obviously takes more than one person to make a movie, and, you know, it's hard for any one person to do a movie by themselves, even a 2-minute short film or commercial or whatever, and it'd be any good. It takes different people coming in and lending their creative juices and their creative instincts to any film, I feel like, in order for it to be any good. But I wanted to know, so for the people out there who are editors, or like, like people like me, like amateurs who are, maybe that's their weakness, is that, some people have that. They have that instinct of where to cut here and what type of cuts to make and what type of special effects to add here. Do you have like just any general advice to people out there, like I said, amateurs who are trying to improve their editing skills, because editing is so important to any film? Do you have any just kind of general advice for people on how they can get better, how they can kind of find their sort of editing voice and their creative voice in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, first, like you said, you can't do this on your own, and Legacy is a good example. I mean, when we were at our biggest, we were having our weekly Zooms, and it would be, I don't know, 35 people on there. And even from the editing side, I was the supervising editor. I did the first 3 episodes on my own. I got the editor credit for the first 3 episodes, but we had, another editor, Brian Johnson, another editor, Michelle Witten, and another editor, Brad Grossman, and then a big team of assistant editors. And so it was a very collaborative, just on the editing side, never mind the production side and the archival side. So yeah, it takes a big team, and it's a very, very collaborative job, and just every project is that, like you said, from 30-second commercials to 90-minute movies to 10-hour series. So that is important to remember. I think for people who want to be directors, understanding that you have to trust people to do what they do, even if it is yours, you have to hand over some of it. But then, as far as advice, like, to me, the biggest thing is doing the work, is creating, and creating things that you like. And one of the things, when I was playing music, one of the things that all of my teachers always said was, listen to the stuff that you want to sound like, and I think it's similar with film and television, is watch the stuff that you love, that you want to be making, and dissect it and understand what it is. And from the editing side, I mean, to me, one of the biggest things is, I cut something, if I feel like it's working and it's good, the next big test is to show it to other people. And there's 2 steps to it. I think there's one is sitting there watching it with other people. I immediately, I'll know if it's a 10-minute thing, okay, at about 2 and here comes that part 2 minutes in, like, I should have made the change. I don't even need the people to say that there's something wrong. I'm already feeling that, like, I wish I had changed that a little bit. So I already, I'm already writing that note of, like, okay, I need to change that before it even starts, because I just know, like, I wish I had, whatever it's, I wish I had picked different music for that, or I wish I had, used a different shot to start the scene. But you immediately get that feeling, when you sit in a room by yourself, it's easy to think that something is good. When you play it in a room with other people, that feeling, hopefully it doesn't change. Hopefully you sit there and you're like, I think it's great. But there's a lot of times you go and press play in front of other people, and you start to doubt yourself. And if you're doubting yourself when other people are watching it, then you need to make changes. And then there's the response from people. I mean, it's like, I remember in the music world, when I was making music, it's a similar thing. You make something at home, you work on it, you get it to a place, then you play it in your car, and it sounds different in your car, and then you play it in a car with your friends, and then is it still hitting the way that it was hitting in the studio by yourself? And you get that feeling immediately. But it's just keeping doing the work. I tell people, like, if you don't have the money, because it's not like it's gotten cheaper and cheaper to be able to make things. You can take a phone out there and you can shoot stuff and it can look great. but even that, like, you know, just the work of like, find a song that you love, download some footage, make a music video to that song, just like create, you know, it's like work on the editing and work on, you know, and you'll start to feel what feels good to you. Do you like, you know, some editors I know use a lot of dissolve, some editors never use them. I know for a long time I didn't understand, like they didn't make sense to me unless it was, I never felt like they were necessary, like you can just cut. And now more and more I've started using more dissolves. Like, you know, you just start to feel these things when you start experimenting and doing stuff. And it's really about just getting out there and doing the work, and, you know, find people that are doing it also. You know, it's if it, you know, means going down to USC film school and finding some, you know, board and saying, yeah, I'm an editor, I'll work for free, you know, like, because that's when you meet those people. If I had never met my friend Ditto when we were doing music for television commercials and he was making that movie, I wouldn't be doing this, you know. And it was, you know, it's, I know so many people that, like, the film school side of things, what you learn is one side, but the almost bigger upside is you're around a bunch of people who just want to be working and making movies or making TV or whatever. So you're surrounded by people who are doing the work, so you get to do the work with them. You know, it's Ryan Coogler and his editor went to USC together. Barry Jenkins and Joy McMillan and Nat Sanders, and I'm forgetting the cinematographer, but Barry Jenkins' whole team, they all went to Florida State together. Like, it's just they're friends working together, you know. And so you find those people and you do the work and you keep doing the work and then hope that it pays off someday.
Right. All right, Mr. Pushinsky, man, I want to thank you for coming on. I know it was delayed a couple of times. I'm glad we were finally able to get it down, and I was able to get all my my questions out. Is there any like any? I don't know if you have any social media you want to promote or anything else you want us to tell us to look out for? Any upcoming projects that you have coming out soon?
Can I get one more question?
Yeah, oh yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay. What did I want to ask? Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. So in the final few episodes of Legacy, you know, should we expect more, you know, interviews from Vanessa? And then, you know, also, you know, how hard was it to kind of navigate, you know, talking about Kobe, you know, especially, you know, obviously with him no longer being with us?
So yeah, there's a little bit more with Vanessa. You know, and the Kobe of it all was tough. I mean, luckily he played at a time and was alive at a time when, you know, he was getting interviewed a lot. And so there's a lot out there. Obviously, it's nothing like being able to look back like all of these other players have been able to do. You know, similar to what I was talking about with how all these players talk about the Bus family. I mean, the way they all talk about Kobe is just, it's unreal. Like, I mean, it's all, you know, I mean, it's all Kobe, you know, I mean, and well-deserved, but they all loved him. And they all love him. But yeah, it's a difficult thing. You know, the Ali documentary, we didn't do any interviews. It was just, it's Ali and Ali's voice. And that was Antoine's decision. He wanted it just to be Ali telling his own story and not get these outsiders talking about, you know, how they felt about him or, you know, what their memories of him. And, you know, and this is a different thing because we have all of these interviews, but then we don't have Kobe, you know. And I think it's, and it, you know, and looking, just flipping through Twitter, you see how much people miss him on so many levels. And definitely, and then within this documentary, it's like you can't help but feel it, like, and can't help but like wish that we had him around to talk about all of this stuff and to hear what he thinks now, what he would think now of all of that stuff and everything that happened. You know, I mean, when he first showed up, you know, there's the interviews of him around that time, and you know, and I mean, he's a kid, right? He's a kid, and he's also, but I mean, you know, a very advanced kid on so many levels, and mentally very advanced, and you know, his media training at that age was already so advanced that like he knew when he was being interviewed what to say and what not to say. So it's like, you know, to be able to hear the, you know, 44-year-old version of himself now talk about what it was like as that 18-year-old kid, like we hear Derek Fisher talk about showing up from Little Rock. You know, it's like to hear him now. I mean, it, you know, it obviously would be priceless, but like, so it was a constant challenge, you know, and to tell his story and try to make it feel like he wasn't just missing, you know, and I think at times we did a good job of it, but he's missing, you know. I mean, it just is what it is. But you know, it's interesting. Like I'm sure you all have seen the trailer for the new Redeem Team documentary that's coming out, and you know, and there was the trailer, and then they just released this clip of him, you know, the scene with him and Powell when they played against each other, and all these guys talking about, like, you know, Kobe's there, right? The interview is there, but I mean, what it would be like to hear him talking about it now. I mean, it's like, you know, that story of him, like, you know, he walked out and he's like, first play, I'm running through his fucking chest. Like, he was a killer, right? He was a killer on the court. But at the same time, like, him and Powell were, I mean, like this, right? And, you know, I don't know that those players don't exist anymore, right? That level of competition. I mean, that's another place where Jordan and Kobe, I think, were so similar. Jordan may have been your boy, like, on the golf course, sorta, you know, but he wasn't going to lose. He'll kill you before he loses. And Kobe had that same mentality. Like, I am not going to lose. I'll whatever it takes. I don't care if Powell's my boy. Like, I'm playing against you right now. You're not my boy on the court. And now this new age of baller, you know, they've known each other. They played AAU together since they were 8. They've all known each other for so long. And, you know, and never mind the fact that they're all making so much money, you know, they're on their yachts together after the season's over. Like, I don't think they have that same killer instinct. They all, I mean, obviously they're all big time competitors and they all want to win. But I don't know if it's that same, like, you know, Magic and Isaiah, like Magic talks about, I don't care who's on, I don't care if my mom's on the court. I'm going to win, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure, you know, they would all say they have it. You don't see it as much as you used to. But so all that being said, like, I mean, yeah, we all wish, you know, we had Kobe's voice in there. You know, it would, there were so many times in the process where it was like, if we just, you know, if we had him, you know, not just on a, like, I mean, they're on a desire to know what he would say, but also just then the logistical side of, like, I don't know, can we even tell this story because he's not here? We don't have him. Like, does it feel right? And that, you know, and getting Vanessa's voice in there a couple of times in this last episode, you know, I thought was great. I think it's, you know, I think it just hearing her, the, you know, the no trade clause, like, it's just like, you know, that was her. And, you know, and she, you know, I think it brings a humanity and just like a, you know, it's just, I can't help whenever I see her pop up, I can't help but smile. You know, it's just, it's great to see her. And, you know, and it was great I was there when we did the interview, and, you know, she couldn't have been more lovely and, you know, and appreciative of the project. You know, she just, so yeah, I feel like we were just lucky to get her. But, you know, there's some things coming in these next couple of episodes. I'll say that much.
Just quickly, you said that you were there for Vanessa's interview. How many of the interviews were you there for in person?
Let's see. I mean, probably about half of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we went out to Miami to get Pat Riley. We ended up meeting Shaq out in Dallas. I went out to that. I was there for one of the Phil interviews, a handful of the Genies. You know, the ones I went to, a bunch of the ones, you know, we did a lot at the Lakers practice facility in El Segundo. And so I went to a bunch of those, and then went on a couple of the trips where we filmed people out of state. So yeah, probably about half.
Okay, awesome. Wow, that's great. Okay, Jake, you have, like I said, do you have any upcoming projects that you want us to look out for, or any social media you want to promote?
No other projects yet. This was this one kind of took my time for the past couple of years. And you listed off a bunch of the stuff that I've worked on over the years. The Ali thing is one of the things I'm most proud of. And then I always, the first movie I did, A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, I feel like is one of there's two movies that I've worked on that I feel have not gotten the attention they deserve. It's A Guide to Recognize Your Saints, which is, it was Downey, Rosario Dawson, Chaz Palminteri, Channing Tatum, Shia LaBeouf. The cast was ridiculous. And then, Diane Weiss was in that. And then I did another one in around 2010 called 10 Years. And it was a 10-year high school reunion movie. And it was Channing, Rosario Dawson, Oscar Isaac, Chris Pratt, Kate Mara, Anthony Mackie. It was like, at the time, every 30-year-old actor in Hollywood showed up for this thing, and nobody saw it. And I think it's great. It's a great little, it's a comedy love story 10-year high school reunion movie that just didn't get the distribution and marketing that I felt like it should have. So I don't know if it's available. I don't know where it's streaming or if it's streaming anywhere, but it's worth checking out.
All right,
and then social media, I mean, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, but it's not like I'm not really, unless people want to see pictures of my kid,
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Jake, man. It's an honor to have you on and get so much insight into the industry, editing. I mean, the Lakers, behind the scenes, the making of the docuseries, the Lakers docuseries. And once again, man, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. And, watch out for episodes 9 and 10. And then let's hope that the Lakers have a nice little run this year.
Appreciate it. We don't need it.
All right, fellas. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too. All right. So before we get out of here, just a few reminders. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Lakers podcast. If you prefer the audio version, remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. The show is also on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and every other major podcatcher. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network, and to like it on Facebook. Just search for the Complete Lakers podcast. And finally, send feedback and mailbag questions to completelakerspodcast@gmail.com. We are out.
Apologies to Herbert. We ran out of time.